We'll note that all commissioners are present, and the first item of business is the order of business. I've been informed there are some changes. I'll go through the ones I have and then ask if there are any others. But under the non-timetable agenda, we'll add an item G, and this is to consider a museum agreement regarding the Dinosaur Museum. And item H will have a short city administrator's report. And then under engineering, we will change item C to item D, and the new item C will be the Berger Electric contract. And then under planning, we'll change item B to item C, and item B will be second reading of the rezoning ordinance that applies to the Axia Development PUD agreement. Well, those are the changes that I've been informed of. Are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, would there be a motion to approve the order of business with including the changes that I mentioned?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion and the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The motion carries. Next item then is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda you wish to discuss?
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion and the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Holtman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries. So we're going to go to the non-timetable agenda. And the first item there is the liquor license ordinance, and City Attorney Goss will introduce that.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the second reading of Ordinance 1595, which changes the number of on-off sale liquor licenses that a person may own from 2 to 5. Staff recommends that no change be made to the existing ordinance, and if the commission chooses to change the ordinance, staff is hopeful that a minimal change will be made.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we're going to open it to the public. Anyone wishing to comment regarding proposed ordinance 1595 may do so now. Just come to the podium, state your name, and we'll hear your comments.
Good evening, President Johnson and City Commissioners. My name is John Paul. I'd just like to make one more comment about the liquor ordinance. I believe this is not a City of Dickinson problem. This is a Legacy 7 problem. If these entrepreneurs are seriously interested in the liquor business, why can't they divide up into smaller groups and purchase licenses under the existing law? If they are interested in 4 businesses, they should just divide up into 2 groups, and each group owns 2 licenses. That way they're entering the game under the same rules that everyone else has in the West. I don't think the problem should require attention or consideration from the city of Dickinson. The existing law is adequate and fair to everyone as it is. If it's not broke, don't fix it. There's no other change.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to comment? Anybody else? There's no one else from the public that wishes to comment, so we'll declare the public portion closed on this and ask for comments by other city staff or city commissioners.
I would make a quick comment. You know, I'm glad we went through the study, I guess, if you will, that we did. I can't vote for this ordinance change. I'm somewhat aware of the project that, or a project that the Legacy 7 group wants to do, and I hope they proceed with the project, but I think it can be done anyway without a change in this ordinance. The numbers just don't work. I kept looking for some logic, something to make this number, whether it's 5 or 2 or something else. I kept looking for some numbers that made it something other than an arbitrary number, and it is arbitrary. But that leaves us with using our gut, if you will, our best judgment on what the right number is, and I can't vote in favor of the 5.
I guess I'm in agreement with Mr. Jackson mainly because, you know, I'm all for free enterprise and for everybody doing what they want to with their business, but the fact of the matter is that this is already a regulated industry here in Dickinson. We're only dealing with 18 licenses. 12 of them are liquor stores. 3 of those are what you would consider big box. So that really boils it down to 9 licenses that are independently owned, and they want 5 of them. That leaves 4 individual businesses out of the buying power. I think you're more competitive when you have the 9 working together than you do segmenting it off. You know, the argument was for volume discounts, and it's probably the same argument that the pharmacy industry makes here in North Dakota every year, and it comes up for vote that if you would take away the current law that pharmacy uses, that we would have bigger discounts on prescriptions. But it also probably means that some of the smaller independent pharmacies that are critical to our small towns would also go to the wayside. It's a regulated industry. This is a regulated industry. And I guess that's where I come to my conclusion of leaving the ordinance as it is.
Thank you, Mr. Altman and Mr. Jackson. Any other comments?
Mr. President, when this first came up, I just wanted to get a feel of how the public thought about it and so on. And you know, so we've went over the last month just trying to get the feel here. At the first meeting, and you know, I didn't think I'd have a problem with increased licenses. However, I didn't think 5 was the way to go. I don't know if I could have supported 5. I did mention that I could support, you know, any number up to, you know, 2, 3, or 4, you know, that type of a number. This is a difficult decision. You know, I did talk to a couple guys today, and one of the issues that I have is you know, we had 2 liquor license holders that didn't want us to, and then we had the support from all the others that requested a yes approval. So you know, I was wondering why, you know, and I thought, well, maybe it had to do with when they want to sell their license, or they want some bigger players out there in order to buy their license to make it a little more valuable at that time. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, if I was a liquor license holder, you know, at my age, I'd be looking to retire, that type of thing. I'd want a bigger buyer out there, but you know, with that being said, I don't know if that's the reason why we should do it or whatever. I'm still comfortable with up to 4 licenses at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Steiner. Anybody else wish to comment?
My feelings are we're having a lot of debate between this, the 2, 3, 4, 5, what number is going to make us happy. So, and I get the feeling that 5 isn't going to make any of us, beside myself, happy. So, I'm willing to put forth a motion for a lower amount. I would like to, motion that we pass the ordinance with, instead of 5, 4,
Okay.
and amend it to 4.
Before we act on that, then we'll just get a little legal advice here. Can we amend the ordinance, the proposed ordinance from 5 to 4, and then act on second reading in that capacity?
Yes, you can. You can make any changes up until final passage.
Okay, so then, as I understand it, we have a motion before us to amend the proposed ordinance from allowing 5 liquor licenses to 4. So that would be your motion.
Yes.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have the motion and the second. Any discussion on the motion as is right now? Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on this amendment. This is not voting on second reading, but just to amend it from 5 to 4. So we'll begin with Mr. Decker.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
No.
Mr. Ullman.
No.
Chair votes no, so the amendment fails, so we're back to 5. Is there any other discussion on the second reading of the ordinance?
I would make a motion to pass it as it originally was with 2.
So I'm going to get some legal advice here again. I would assume if Mr. Altman wants to do that, his motion should be to not pass the second reading.
Correct.
Correct.
So is that your motion?
my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have the motion and the second. Is there any discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none, then we'll vote on that. Mr. Ullman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
No.
Chair votes aye, so the motion carries. In effect, that means that the ordinance, the present ordinance, remains in place, allowing just the 2 liquor licenses. Thank you for participating in this issue over the past several weeks. We will now move on to item B, which has to do with some appointments regarding Planning and Zoning Commission and the Special Assessment Commission, and the City Administrator Kessel will introduce these items.
Thank you, President Johnson. As you've said, we have 2 citizen interest forms for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had 3. We have done some due diligence, and that pack has narrowed itself to 2. Those people are Shirley Dukart and Eric Smallwood. Because the City Commission is going to be wrestling with replacing President Johnson shortly, there has been discussion of a replacement coming from previously elected officials on the City Commission. I think it's in our best interest to wait until that process is over, since Ms. Dukart could potentially be one of those potentially appointed members. So my recommendation is that we not appoint anybody to Planning and Zoning as of yet until the City Commission is full and intact. I expect that to happen in December based upon 15-day requirements for replacements for President Johnson. On the Special Assessment Commission, however, we are acting with 3 members. The chairperson has indicated his desire to resign from his position, which would leave us with 2 members, so we are in dire need of membership on the Special Assessment Commission. We have 2 people who are interested in that position. Doug Perkins is a civil engineer with Houston Engineering, and Doug Wellenstein is a longtime local realtor. It would be my recommendation that you appoint both to 3-year terms to the Special Assessment Commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kessel. So he's suggesting you defer the Planning and Zoning Commission until a later meeting, and that you act on the Special Assessment Commission tonight. Does anyone here have a problem following his recommendation?
No.
Okay. So I think we can just simply agree to wait on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and if you're in agreement with his recommendation, then on the Special Assessment Commission, that we would move to approve the two applications.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have the motion and the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion. Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so the motion carries. That'll bring us to item C, which is personnel recruitment, and City Attorney Goss will introduce this item.
This ordinance allows the city to use recruitment agencies for filling vacancies in exempt positions. It requires the city administrator or his designee to determine that it would be in the best interest of the city. This will be especially helpful in filling vacancies in the deputy city administrator and city engineer positions, which have been historically hard to fill. The Civil Service Commission and city staff recommend approval.
And this is first reading, right?
Correct.
So this would be ordinance 1596.
It's actually 1597.
It is, okay. You would think at my last meeting you'd let me assign the ordinance numbers, but okay, it's 1597. If there's anyone that would like to comment regarding 1597, you may do so now. Just come to the podium, state your name, and we'll hear your comments. Anyone wish to comment? All right, no one wishes to comment. Any comments by other city staff or city commissioners? Not, is there a motion regarding first reading?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion and the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So the motion carries. Item D, I have a conflict with, so I will turn item D over to Mr. Jackson, and he will conduct that.
Okay, these are a series of assignments of easements with Dakota Prairie Refinery that, Ms. Goss, you're going to explain that in a little bit better detail for us?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Dakota Prairie Refinery has executed the special warranty deed, bill of sale, and assignment of pipeline easements that were part of the wastewater treatment contract, which was previously approved by the commission. These are the final documents needed to finish that contract. City staff recommends approval of the documents.
Okay, and as I recall, Mr. Kessel, maybe you can help me with my memory. We talked about this, I believe, a year or two ago as we did the negotiations with Dakota Prairie. We knew we would be doing something like this.
That is entirely correct, Commissioner Jackson. They were going to make this a project of the refinery build and build it to a public standard, and so knowing that, we would have these easements would have to be assignable when they came to, as they are.
Okay. Any general questions for Ms. Goss or Mr. Kessel? Before we start this, I expect, Ms. Goss, you're going to make us do a motion for each one of these.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll start with the first assignment, 3114196. Who would like to move the approval of that?
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Decker?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That motion carries. Second one is 3126076. Who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. The third one is number 3126077. Who would like to make that motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion carries. Fourth one is number 3126078. Need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second. Second, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. The fifth one is 3126079. Who would like to make the motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. And the last assignment of easement is 3126080. Who would like to make the motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? The vote, Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. And then we have the warranty deed, which I believe is for the site of the lift station out there. Need a motion to approve that
Motion to approve.
in a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? If not, we'll vote. Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans? Chair votes aye, motion carries. And then the bill of sale, finally.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Steiner? Mr. Oltmans? Mr. Decker?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. That motion carries. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We'll move on to item E then, which has as a resolution dealing with Brady Martz and Associates, and City Administrator Kessel will introduce this item.
Thank you, President Johnson. We find ourselves in almost the exact same position as we were last year at this time. We were searching for a deputy city administrator, and as you all know, that deputy city administrator has the bailiwick of finances and accounting within their role or duties. Last year, we had to engage Brady Martz to assist us with the process of closing our books out and with making end-of-year adjustments. This contract or a letter of engagement would do a similar thing. The letter of engagement is essentially the same as it was last year. The only changes are the manager responsibilities, that it specifically lifts myself, and the professional fees are listed out individually, where before they were, it said 85 to 110 and didn't list the staff members available. So other than those two changes, this is the exact same document as we had last year. I started off by saying we are essentially similar place. The difference between this year and last year is we do have an accountant, Robbie, on staff and can help. So we are hopeful that by engaging Brady Martz, they'll do a superlative job in assisting us, but we may not need quite as much time from them this year as we did last year. So my hope is, and my recommendation is that we engage Brady Martz with this letter of engagement to assist us for end of year.
Thank you, Mr. Kessel. You've heard his introduction, recommendation. Do you have any comments or questions? This resolution 42-2015?
Yes.
Okay. If there are no comments or questions, is there a motion regarding resolution 42-2015?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have the motion to approve and the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote then. Mr. Kessel, or not Mr. Kessel, Mr. Altman,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Decker.
Aye.
Mr. Kessel, you don't get to vote.
Darn it.
Chair votes
On your
aye.
last day.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we'll move on to the financial report and for September, and City Administrator Kessel is going to give that.
Thank you. You should all have before you the written copy of the financial report. I will admit that Mr. Morey, because of his private engagement this week, has not been available a lot, so we haven't had a whole lot of time to discuss the financial report. I am here, however, to write down any questions you may ask and answer them at the next City Commission meeting. So I'm hoping that you don't, that you've had the time to look it over. And if you have questions, please ask.
Well, that was a pretty in-depth financial report. Are there any questions that Mr. Kessel won't answer but can write down?
Thank you for not asking any questions.
Well,
Not all.
do you want to bring this back at your next meeting and ask for approval then? Or are you comfortable approving the financial report? I know we had it on our computers, we had it electronic.
Yeah.
So,
I'm certainly, President Johnson, comfortable with either. I think it's a fair question if the commission has questions that we all can delve in and provide you answers.
You know, this is the report that is effective just after we did our budget deliberations in 3, 4, 5 meetings, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I think we got good insight at that time to things. And, you know, obviously, we're seeing what's happening with sales tax, somewhat predictable. I think we could approve it.
is that a motion?
That's a motion.
We have the motion to approve the financial report. Is there a second?
Second.
We have the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Item G then is the museum agreement, which we have before us. And Ms. Gause, are you, or Mr. Kessel? Okay.
Thank you, President Johnson. The attached agreement has been negotiated to allow the existing exhibits, the state-owned fossils, to remain at the museum. Some of the highlights from the agreement include the city accepting those exhibits, hiring qualified staff to curate those exhibits, changing the name of the museum, forgiving the remaining balance of the loan, which is approximately $32,000, and not changing those exhibits for the period of 1 year. In return, the city receives all of the exhibits, the fossils, the casts, the minerals, etc., the cases in which they are displayed, the furniture, and all other opportunities. It's difficult to put a number on the value of these fossils. When they were placed in the museum at the time it was created, the value was about $1 million. This is quite a gift that is being provided us, or this opportunity, and it's one that I believe we should take. City staff recommends approval of the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Kessel. You've heard his introduction and his recommendations. Comments or questions? In looking at the agreement, there are 4 conditions that the city has to meet by December 30th of 2015, which is not very far away. And one of the conditions is that, you know, you've hired a full-time qualified person to manage this, knowing how difficult it's been to, you know, recruit professionals. Can we meet this condition?
President Johnson, that is going to be the most difficult of the qualifiers to meet. I will take the opportunity to mention that Museum Coordinator Dan Ingram has resigned his position, so it will provide us the opportunity to review that job description and see if we can't make alterations that would allow for provisions that meet this provision in the agreement and our hiring process. So we might be able to essentially kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Right. And I think that's, you know, a good way to look at the situation, but you're getting in to the end of the year, the holiday times, and, you know, this is pretty straightforward. It says it's null and void if you don't have this done, and I'm just, really what I'm wondering is if the agreement shouldn't be amended, so at least on that point 2, you have more time. Unless you already have kind of a name you're working on.
President Johnson, I do not have a candidate in mind. I can tell you that when we have done recruitment efforts, we've done a lot of them for the city over the course of the last 4 years, we have always had excellent opportunities to hire. In fact, the museum assistant position we recently hired, we had over 60 applicants. If there's one position that I'm not as concerned about, it would be related to the museum. Now, having said that, this is a different position than that, and so I've never had to hire somebody with this type
You're
of
looking
experience
for a
before.
paleontologist.
Or a geologist, or that's correct. And
Not many people would expect me to know what a paleontologist is, but I'm getting close to the age of the dinosaurs, so I know. But I just, I wonder do you think the other party would have a problem if we agreed to points 1 and 3 that we could meet by December 30th, 2015, and say give yourself a March 31st, 2016 date on hiring the full-time qualified person?
I'm not sure why the December 30th deadline was important to them. They've been very easy to work with throughout this document. So if that's a point of contention, I can certainly go back with them. And
I think this is another example of where it is, better to do this well than do it fast. And you are looking, like you said, for a geologist or a paleontologist. And I just think it's going to could take a little longer to find really the right candidate here. And I suspect they would prefer you do this well as opposed to fast too. Maybe at the time this was being proposed, it might have been 60 days ago and looked like you'd have more time. But what do the rest of you think?
I suspect the critical thing here, I'm guessing, but the critical thing may be the gifting by December 31st. I don't know that, but
it very well could be.
But I absolutely agree. I think it should be at least March 31st, and just the process will take you into the new year.
I'll certainly approach them and find out if that's a deal breaker. I can't imagine that it would be.
We could go ahead and approve the agreement with that change in concept, and then if they agree to it, you don't have to bring it back to the commission.
I think that's a good idea. And then I can approach, they've hired attorney Melby, her and I can have a conversation.
Because you want to do that process well.
Okay.
So if that's the general agreement here, I think we just need a motion approving this agreement with subjecting point 2 to a 3/31/2016 deadline as opposed to the December 30th, 2015 deadline. And City Attorney Goss she'll write it up a lot easier, a lot more succinctly than that. But
I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion to second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. So we'll come back to item H after we get through the timetables. We have a 5 o'clock timetable agenda, and that's to hear a request from Dickinson Public Schools. And Chris Fair, a member of the school board, is here to present that request.
As you're aware, we are building a new middle school in West Dickinson. This is the very first middle school ever constructed in the city of Dickinson. We're pretty excited about that. This week is also handing out some information to regarding the timetable of the construction and a little bit of information on cost. As we were talking about the funding for the school and the related facilities, we're looking at requesting from the city a portion of the 1% sales tax, 30% that is dedicated to capital improvements to enhance the social and economic vitality of the Southwest area. As I'm sure you know, the school district and the city and the school district have a long history of working together from hosting tournaments to all kinds of activities that are for the betterment of our area citizens. The school district is requesting $1.5 million that would go toward the second gymnasium, the outdoor track, and other athletic facilities. The total cost of that is $1.7 million, as you will see in the handout. We feel that this would assist, of course, will assist the school district in the cost, but it will also add to the economic vitality and to the quality of place for the nation. If you have any questions, I would be more than willing to answer those. Also, Mr. Reese is here to answer questions that you have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fair. Are there comments or questions? I'll just make a comment. Mr. Reap and the school superintendent, Mr. Sullivan, Dr. Sullivan, did meet several months ago on more than one occasion with Mr. Kessel and myself about this concept, and then I know I had a meeting or two with Mr. Reap and Mr. Dr. Sullivan without Mr. Kessel being there. And I think at the time it's fair to say, Mr. Kessel, that both you and I supported the concept of them approaching the city for some financial aid here. I know I did. And so.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
You're accurate.
I think this you're requesting, I think that this be done like over a 2-year period during the construction period. I've looked at our sales tax numbers, and unless we have just a real radical decline in sales tax revenue, I think this is financially a doable thing if you're in favor of it. I don't think you have to act on this tonight. It would be better if it was drawn up in a resolution form and brought to you as a commission, but I just wanted to weigh in and disclose that I had been meeting with them going back close to a year, maybe a little less than a year, and also that I think, you know, the city does have the financial resources to support this.
Ms. Fair, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page. The funds that would be provided by the city, the 1.5, would be utilized to construct a second gymnasium and the athletic fields. Is that accurate?
That is correct. It's marked on your resume.
Yeah. And it says defer the athletic field, so with these funds, you would not defer then? They would be built in construction, or in unity with the building itself, is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things on that sheet that we did with Mortensen, that was our value analysis, and we were looking for ways, if we had the cut budget, what we would do. But both of those are in the project and in the budget at this point.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, the original project also include with the gymnasium also includes a new football field up by the school. Am I correct?
Right. The athletic field would be the football field
Okay.
and a track.
Okay. Pretty much like the one you have now down by Hagen, a combined.
Correct.
Okay.
That one.
Be a lot nicer, though.
Okay.
But if you accept city funds, as you said in your presentation, your letter, I mean, this would be, these facilities would kind of be open to the use by the community of the Southwest North Dakota here.
Right.
Absolutely, and in working with the Park District also, there's discussions of a walking trail around that 30 acres of perimeter, which goes all the way to the ridge, and we've had some preliminary conversations about sledding areas and other public use activities.
Other questions?
Mr. President, Mr. Reap, when you talk about the football field, what kind of,
At this point, we don't have anything in the budget for seating at this facility. It would just be sort of like Hagen Field is now, where we have junior high football games there and track practices. We wouldn't have any competitive track on this facility. Those would be at the back. But at this point, we don't have seating built into the budget.
thank you.
I'm comfortable with this, and I'm comfortable that the dollars are there. I would like to see, when we come back with a resolution, I would like to see a cash flow projection on our 30%. I know we're juggling 2, 3, 4 things, and maybe another one in the future, and I would like to see that laid out a little bit for us.
Well, we did have a request last meeting or meeting before, was domestic violence for an additional $1 million. Plus this one, so yeah, I think we need to see some numbers. I mean,
We'll bring that to the next city commission meeting.
I don't doubt Mr. Johnson's numbers. He's been pretty good the last 15 and a half years, but
I have them here. I carry them with me everywhere I go. So I think the plan would be that you might have to assist our attorney in writing a resolution of support, especially on the whereas sides, but you could bring that to the next meeting, and if Mr. Kessel and the others agree, it could be on the agenda and you could act on it then.
Are you available this next week for a meeting, or are you out of town? Yep. Okay. Okay, we'll get in contact.
Okay, thank you for being here. Mr. Kessel, we'll go back to your city administrator's report.
Thank you. I just have a couple items on there, and Commissioner Steiner was actually a little prophetic when he brought up the domestic abuse and violence shelter. That was going to be one of my topics. Their request is for $1 million to construct a 22-room shelter with an estimated cost of between $3.5 and $4 million. They've also asked that we issue a municipal bond that they can draw upon until they can receive sufficient donations to pay back the bond itself, and then also to be fiscal agent for the project. You tasked us with determining whether or not we can support this project and what our recommendations would be. And as you heard me say earlier, I haven't had access to accounting staff this week, so I really would like some additional time. I do think, though, preliminarily, that we should and could cover the infrastructure costs. There is infrastructure very, very close to this building, so we're essentially talking about service lines, so those costs wouldn't be that high, not in comparison to the total build. I also believe that we could purchase their existing facility as a way of providing them funding And also being the fiscal representative or even the builders, the owner's rep when it comes to the construction side. I'm not sure if they've selected a CMAR at this time, but certainly our city staff has had a great deal of experience in constructing buildings multiple ways and including CMAR process. I have had some discussions with city staff, and I believe that that's something that we can do. It is a valuable service and one that I think that they would appreciate. So those are just a few things I wanted to mention, and that at the next City Commission meeting, I can bring forth a stronger recommendation than that. But if there's any other questions, I'd like to address those with you if you're not supportive of any of the things that I've mentioned.
Any comments or questions? I think the night they made the presentation, all 5 commissioners voiced pretty strong support, and again, their mission and what they're good at is not necessarily constructing a building. They're going to have some very good ideas of how to program that building, what should go into it. But I think, again, the city staff here has some excellent experience and expertise now in constructing, and I think if you took it on as, in a sense, a city project, as you outlined it, I think it would be really good for the community as a whole.
We'll keep moving down that avenue then. The next item that I have then is, I just wanted to mention there'll be an open house for President Johnson on the 28th of this month. It'll be here at City Hall. We'll begin at 1 o'clock, and we'll do our best to honor President Johnson and his years of service as the mayor of Dickinson. He really has done an honorable job, and it's been a privilege to work with him. I've learned so much from Dennis, President Johnson, and you'll be missed.
Well, thank you. You read that pretty much the way I wrote it. So okay, we got a little time yet before we get to our 5:25, so we'll go to engineering, and there's a KLJ task order, and Assistant City Engineer Marshak is going to introduce that item.
There we go. You should be able to hear me now. Good evening, President Johnson, Commissioners. The task order before you would enter us into agreement with KLJ Engineering to do design plans to extend a water main from the west side of Highway 22 over to State Avenue and down to so that we could tie into the booster station that we put in on State Avenue. This would help with the looping of the system, and especially the North Industries area. This project includes about a mile of piping, hydrants, aperturances, and would include preliminary design, final design, bidding, and construction negotiation. The task is based on a 3.2 multiplier, so the estimate cost would be around $306,000. The project itself is currently on our 2016 CIP list, so it is something that we've budgeted for. And beyond that, if you have any questions for me, I will do my best to answer them.
How large is the total project that is on that CIT list then for 2016? How many, do you remember?
You know, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
President Johnson, I'm not positive either. We had included a couple different projects. The project that Ms. Marshak is talking about this evening, and another project in the area that was annexed up by Northern Improvement. We're splitting those out as two different tasks. This would be the first one. We don't have the other task order available, but I would add that we had estimated a cost of $1.8 million just for the water. There'll be sewer involved in the project in that developed area, but we were awarded through the State Water Commission a grant estimated at 60% of that $1.8 million cost. So our costs will exceed $1.8 million, as there'll be some street work and some sewer work involved in that. That isn't covered by the State Water Commission grant, but there is some state dollars involved in this project as well.
Yeah. The reason I ask is, I'm anticipating that, your 2016 capital spend dollars are going to be fairly limited, so I'm assuming this project is one of your higher priority capital projects in 2016. If you're going to go ahead and spend the engineering money on it, you probably may not be your top one, but I'm assuming it's in your top 2 or 3 priorities.
President Johnson, I don't have access to the list. I didn't bring it to me today. I usually do carry that around with me at all times as well. This is probably the first annexation we ever did in Dickinson pre-boom, and they've been waiting for services since that time, so about 5 or 6 years, and we are finally now getting around to providing them the services that I think were expected upon annexation. So I can find out the priority that we gave it, but I can tell you that it's a long-awaited infrastructure project.
Well, it's a project that makes sense, but I'm just assuming that if we go ahead and agree to spend the engineering money on it, you are committed to taking what limited dollars you're going to have and applying it to this project.
Because of the grant that Mr. Kubas mentioned, this is a priority project.
Okay.
On our, I have a list here, President Johnson. On the 2016 priority, we have it as 15. So it is a 2016 priority, although we are already doing starting some of the 2016 priorities in 15. So originally we had it as number 15 for budget not to exceed $6 million, I believe.
For the number 15 project for 2016?
Correct.
How many millions of dollars are ahead of it then?
Pardon me?
How many millions of dollars are ahead of it in other projects?
I'd have to add that up.
You're a Montana State guy. This shouldn't take too long. Come on.
Well, I was just wondering if that was before, dollar amounts before we split the project.
Well, and probably when you put those priorities together, you didn't know about the grant, and that grant would cause it to jump in terms of priorities. But I just want to make sure if you're going to spend the money on engineering, you are going to go ahead and construct it.
Our water main project, like Mr. Kubik said, was the North Industries, and to get water there, we did go to the State Water Commission and looked at reviewing like the North Tank. We figured that could wait later as far as a priority, so this is probably our number 1 water priority.
Okay, well you've answered my question. So is there anything else you want to say by way of introduction?
Well, in case I didn't say it before, the engineering staff recommends approval.
Okay. Are there other questions or comments?
Mr. President, if I may, I know this is an essential project, but why is the engineering so high on this? Am I reading this wrong? I mean, it's 1.4 million, right, total? 1.495?
Let me take a look and see what your number you're looking at. Maybe you can direct me, Commissioner Decker, because with the multiplier, I have an estimate of $306,500.
For the engineering cost?
and construction administration.
Okay, and then the total project, if you go to the last page, or second to the last page, it says 1.459. On here, it's page 13.
Total estimated project cost.
I guess when I looked at it, the numbers were in line with what have been seeing thus far for costs.
I'm just looking at this one item here, and it's like 33% is administration and contingency and,
Well, you want to have contingency, so the
I
higher that
understand
is,
that.
the better, actually.
So you've got the total estimate for the project is nearly $1.5 million, including engineering
right.
and the contingency. And the task order authorization would take you up as high as $306,500. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're going to spend,
Correct.
but that would be our authorization if this passes on this task order for the engineering work.
Correct.
Right, and the actual engineering is about 270, the estimate, for design and then construction administration.
That's what's in this little box here. It says preliminary design, $75,000, and then has 4 other items itemized.
Right. 306,500 for just engineering and construction.
Right. I think it's pretty typical relationship between what we've done with other water, street, and sewer projects.
You're correct, President Johnson. The numbers are pretty similar with other projects that we've done.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Is there a motion regarding this task order?
Move to approve, Mr. President.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion and the second. Other discussion?
I'll be abstaining from the vote, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
No.
Mr. Jackson abstains. Chair votes aye, so the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's 5:25. We have a timetable agenda item. This is to consider a resolution regarding the homeless. Is there a representative here from Dickinson Churches United? There we are.
Good evening, Mr. President, fellow commissioners. My name is Bill Kelly. I'm the director of the Dickinson Churches United for the Homeless. This will be our 4th year that we've operated a shelter in Dickinson for homeless men, up to 15 a night. We rotate around between previously 7 different churches. This year will be 6. 1 week in each church, runs from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. We have a pickup point, and we bus the individuals, our guests, to the shelter at 9 p.m. and they go through a process of bag check and breathalyzer, and we sign them into the shelter. The churches usually feed the people, then in the morning we pack them up on the van, send them back to either where they're parked at the pickup point, or if they're on foot. Our biggest changes this year, and I'm sure you're familiar with our program, but our biggest changes is we're going to 2 volunteers this year. Our numbers have been down. 2 years ago, we were averaging 6 a night. Last year, we averaged just barely, well, less than 2 a night for the whole winter. We're going to start out the first part of the year with a program to subsidize the churches in November, where they're just going to, until we can actually see the numbers, but we're going to put them up in motels. you know, for the first part of November. It's looking like a real warm start to our winter season. Other than that, that's about our biggest changes, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any comments or questions?
Curiosity question, Mr. Kelly, with the obvious change that we have in the oil economy right now, what are you anticipating? You anticipating more or less usage?
We're expecting less. I've met with Mr. Kessel. I've met with Community Action and Social Services and the Police Department. Everybody's seeing less. I'm just not sure if the layoffs are going to cause people to stay here and look for work, and poor planning cause them to be, you know, staying at the shelter. We're going to be prepared and ready to run, you know. But if we don't get anybody and we work ourselves right out of a job, it's a good thing, I believe.
Sure.
So.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing.
So I know there's a resolution somewheres here at the tail end of all the information that was prepared for us. My finger's getting tired. But is it Resolution 43?
Yes.
Okay, and in case I never get to the end of this, can one of you, oh, there it is. So this is essentially very similar to the resolutions we've passed in prior years. Okay. So would there be a motion regarding Resolution 43, 2015?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have the motion and the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So the motion carries. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Mr.
being
President.
here. Okay. So we're going back to engineering, and item B is a contract with Wind Construction, and Mr. Kubis is going to introduce this item.
Thank you, President Johnson. Commissioners, this is the agreement for Wind Construction to construct the Crooked Crane Trail. It was awarded at our September 21st meeting, 2 meetings ago. Again, if you recall the discussion, this agreement would include the base bid, which is the earth moving and the gravel, plus alternate 2, which is the concrete paving, of course, for Wind Construction. They're going to construct this trail as a concrete trail, and it also included alternates 3 and 4, which I'm not entirely certain of, but it was other amenities to the trail system. The entire awarded amount was a contract of $1,527,284.40. This project has a July 29th completion date of next year, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kubis. You've heard his introduction and recommendation. Any comments or questions? Is there a motion then regarding this agreement?
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I move we approve agreement.
I'll second.
We have the motion and the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries. And then we added an item C, which is an electric contract with Berger Electric, and I think it's on the same project, and Mr. Kubis will introduce that also.
Thank you, President Johnson. It is on the same project. Again, per state law, the prime contract, so to speak, and the electrical contract were bid out separately. Berger Electric was the apparent low bid on the electrical portion of that. Again, it was awarded on September 21st. Same completion date with the electrical portion of the project. The Berger Electric agreement is in the amount of $46,241, and city staff recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kubis. You've heard his introduction and his recommendation. Any comments or questions? Is there a motion regarding this agreement?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have the motion and the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, then we'll vote. Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Then the new item D is a cost participation and maintenance agreement, and City Engineer Kubas will introduce this one also.
Thank you, President Johnson. This is the cost participation and maintenance, or CPM agreement, for what we're calling the ultimate bypass. This project would take off where the Exit 56 project is wrapping up right now, about a half-mile north of that new Exit 56. Our new bypass will take off, go about 3 miles north of there, and 5 miles back to the east to tie into Highway 22. The cost participation portion of the agreement, all the standard language that a DOT agreement has, the city's estimated cost of our involvement on the project at this point is $0. There's no water and sewer, which typically the city would pick up the cost for, and no other amenities that the city's asked for as part of the project. So our estimated cost participation is $0. The maintenance agreement portion of the project, between the DOT and the county, they'll have the maintenance on this bypass. It'll roughly be about 6 miles. What it also does is in the interim bypass, the city's had the maintenance on that bypass north of Exit 59 and then 2 miles back to Highway 22. When this becomes part of the Highway 22 truck bypass route officially, the DOT will take over the maintenance on all of those east-west miles. So from Highway 22 to the west, DOT will have maintenance on that. We have the maintenance on those 2 miles right now. So our maintenance will go north of Exit 59 as it does today for 3 miles, and that'll be the end of our maintenance. So we actually lose a little bit of maintenance as part of this agreement and no cost. Again, city staff would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kubas. You've heard his introduction and his recommendation. Again, questions or comments?
It's a $24 million project, and we're not on the hook for anything, so that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, yes.
Yeah, no engineering.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion regarding this agreement?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have the motion and the second. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote then. Mr. Ullman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries. Brings us to Public Works, and Mr. Zuroff has a high-speed street sweeper here.
President Johnson Commission, Finance put this on the agenda. It's actually consideration to approve the finance for the high-speed street sweeper bid. We did budget and accept the bid, and we actually have it at the Public Works facility now. And in the memo, it does say, too, that October 5th, they sent out a request for the final local financial institutions regarding, it should say, financing of the high-speed vacuum sweeper, not the rear-load truck refuse. So it looks like they put out a bid, and then low interest rate for the 5-year lease for the high-speed street sweeper was U.S. Bank at 1.697%. I believe we need a motion to approve.
So you're looking for a motion to approve the financing with U.S. Bank at that stated interest rate. Does anyone care to move that motion?
I'll make the motion approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any questions for Mr. Zuroff? Not, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Ullman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Zuroff. So we'll go to planning, and item A is a rezoning petition, and City Planner Hadley will present this.
Yes, thanks, Mr. President. Rezoning petition 137 3rd Avenue East, ordinance 1596, I believe, is the number. It is a second reading. It does meet our future land use plan, and staff would recommend you approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. So at this time, if there's anyone that wishes to comment on proposed ordinance 1596, you may do so now. Just come to the podium, state your name, and we'll hear your comments. Anyone wish to comment? There's no one that wishes to comment on 1596. Are there any comments or questions by city staff or city commissioners? This is second reading. Is there a motion to approve second reading and final passage of 1596?
I'll
Mr.
make the
President,
motion.
move to approve second reading, final passage, ordinance 1596.
Now second.
Mr. Steiner moves, Mr. Jackson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote then. Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Mr. Decker.
Aye.
Mr. Altman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. So, item B then is a rezoning ordinance, and there is a copy here. I think this is 1592.
Yes.
And we did approve first reading at a prior meeting, and I think the city thought we acted on this on our September 21st meeting, but you've looked back and we did not act on this?
That's correct.
That's correct? Okay. So this is second reading of 1592. Mr. Hadley, do you want to add anything else to it here?
It's second reading. It's a plan unit development for the old St. Joseph site. Yes, it's second reading, and what we were holding up for was a signature on the development agreement, which is your item C, and staff would recommend approval.
Okay. So at this time, if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on proposed ordinance 1592, you may do so now. Just come to the podium, state your name, we'll hear your comments. Anyone on 1592? There's no one that wishes to comment on 1592. Are there any comments by other city staff or city commissioners? Not, is there a motion regarding the second reading and final passage of 1592?
Move to approve.
We have the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. So that would bring us to what is now item C. That's the Axia Development PUD agreement, and City Planner Hadley will introduce that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The development agreement has been reviewed and signed by the owner of the property and the applicant. Legal staff has reviewed it and approved it. It does have all the conditions that Planning Commission forwarded on it, and staff would recommend that it be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. So you've heard his introduction and his recommendation. Do you have any questions or comments? Not, would there be a motion to approve the agreement?
So moved.
Or a second?
I'll second.
We have the motion and the second by Mr. Decker. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Are there any reports by commissioners? Not. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address the commission? If so, just come to the podium, state your name, your comments. There's no one from the public. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, before we do, you know, I know this makes you uncomfortable, but this is your last meeting.
Yeah.
And
We should just go ahead and adjourn.
because it makes you uncomfortable, I won't address you. I'm going to address the public. And I had something written that I wanted to say tonight, and I didn't feel right reading something. But I just want the public to know just how much this man has done for the city the last 15 and a half years. Sue and I have been here for 40 years.
in Dickinson. In 15 of those years, Mr. Johnson has been mayor. Few people know the time that he spends. Few people know the wisdom he brings to these proceedings, to the everyday of operating this city. So we really can't let the meeting end without saying something. Thank you very much for what you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Appreciate that. Now, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Not so fast, Mr. Johnson. Or Dennis. I also want to thank you for being a great mentor the last 15 years. We were, at least I was a rookie coming in here not knowing much about city government, and so I feel that you tutored me very well, and a lot of times you probably should have been upset with me, but sometimes you were, and you probably shouldn't have been. But again, I think the community does need to know, as Mr. Jackson stated, the amount of time that you put in here. I don't think they have any idea the amount of time. I know they know your wisdom, and we've all benefited from that, but the amount of time that you put into this here, you're definitely not getting paid what you were worth. But I just want to say thank you again for everything. It's been fantastic working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Now, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Do you want the motion, or do you want some more comments?
No, I just wouldn't have a motion myself, so.
I'll save my comments for private. then.
There you go.
I will just thank you, and I will make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? We have the motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We're adjourned.